Welcome to Talent Matters, the podcast where talent, skills and grit take centre stage. I'm Donal O'Donoghue and this is episode 39. The podcast is sponsored by Sanderson, talent solutions that transform businesses globally. In this episode, I'm delighted to be joined by singer-songwriter Aimee.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
You were telling me you love to chat, so you've come to the right place.
You've called the right gal.
Good stuff.
You said something at the start of this, being like, the podcast episodes are normally like 35 minutes. I'm like, that's a challenge.
Yeah. Well, listen, that's the nice thing about podcast format. You can chat and see where it goes.
Yeah.
But where we always like to start is at the beginning. So Tell us a little bit about your life growing up. Where are you from?
So I am a Dublin gal. I grew up in Swords. My family home is still there. My sisters, my dad, everybody still lives there. And yeah, I love Swords.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time in Swords actually. Used to be involved with the taekwondo club out in River Valley there. So
That's where I'm from, River Valley.
There you
in
go.
the community centre, was it?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
That's where I first
Do you
started
know
dancing,
that,
actually.
That the River Valley, here's a plug for Stephen Cooley and the the River Valley Taekwondo Club is one of the best taekwondo clubs in the world. So many people from that club have gone on to win European and world medals. So you probably know some of them, but I'm not going to start dropping names on the podcast now and embarrass them.
I'm not surprised. There's something in the water in River Valley, I have to say. A lot of talent has come out of there.
Yeah. So tell us about what was life like for you growing up. So you grew up in Swords. What were you like as a kid? What were you into?
God, as a kid, I was just, I'm sure, as annoying as I am now, but I just loved music. I loved to dance. I had, honest to God, like, I'm so grateful. I had the best childhood, honestly. Like, two of my parents were both self-employed. My mom used to make wedding dresses. My dad he used to actually be like a milkman and do that. So I've came from kind of two hustling parents, if you know what I mean, but they always made sure that we as kids had everything that we needed, and it was just honestly the most fun and special upbringing. Honestly, there's not one thing that I would change about my growing up as a kid. Do you know what I mean? I'm very grateful.
And did you get into that kind of drama and dancing kind of stuff as a kid? Was that how it all started? Yeah,
so my sister and my mum had set up a dance school when I was younger. So I was kind of thrown into that instantly, straight away. But I was in ballet from like the age of 3. So like dance and music was just like in my DNA from when I was literally a baby. And my parents, I think, kind of discovered early on, you can see when kids love music, but I think they could kind of see from early on, oh, this is like more of an obsession as opposed to her actually just liking music, where I would turn down going to friends' birthdays. I would turn down going out to play with my friends because I would literally just have my headphones on with my little Discman and I'd just be pressing play, pause, writing down lyrics, learning riffs, play, pause. And it was something that I just was obsessed with really from such a young age. And
was it completely singing, or was it musical instruments as well?
Yeah, so I just got a visual there. I remember my parents
getting me... Don't say the recorder.
Oh God, yeah. I just remember my parents getting me like a small keyboard that had light up buttons, and I just remember telling everybody like, oh, I'm a pianist. Like I play like piano. Instruments were definitely an important part, especially when I was learning like songwriting and really trying to understand chords and chord progressions and melodies. That was really important. But I think my main instrument has always been my voice. Like it's kind of been something that early on I was like, this is my strongest point, so I'm going to put as much energy and kind of attention into this, as opposed to feeling like, oh, like to be a singer, like you have to be able to, play loads of different instruments. It's not always the case. I think it's important, but I kind of early on learned don't put too much pressure on yourself for that either,
And what were you like in school in terms of subjects and interests? Were you good in school, like well behaved, or were you a messer?
I think I was well behaved. Maybe there might be a few teachers that might say different. No, I think I was well behaved. I did enjoy school. Like I've always been a bit of a sponge. Like I do love learning things. I was always really interested in history. I know that's really random, but I just love storytelling. I was obviously better in like the likes of art and music class and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I'll be totally honest with you. When I think of school, I don't really think of the happiest memories. When I do think of happy memories, it was like primary school when I was a kid, before I kind of learned about wanting to impress people or what people thought of me and that kind of stuff. I feel like when I went to secondary school, that's when things kind of changed a little bit.
Secondary school is tough.
Yeah,
whether
it's really tough.
It's in Ireland or whether it's in the UK or the States or wherever, you tend to hear that a lot, like the pack mentality or the desire to be included and accepted or excluded. They can be tough years.
It's a weird mixture of wanting to be invisible and blend in, but also wanting to take on a career where you have to stand out. Yeah. So it's kind of almost, you go through a bit of like an identity crisis of what am I supposed to be doing? Who am I? Oh, these people think this is so embarrassing. I must be so embarrassing. Oh, these people are saying that I'm really bad. I must be really bad. That kind of thing, where you kind of have this I really pity secondary school, that age, because I just think it's so tough, like growing up, figuring out who you are and finding, your friend group, but also you have this weird pressure at such a young age to be like, what are you going to be? Like, what are you going to do after school? Like, I remember being so embarrassed by my teachers in front of my class because I wasn't filling out college application forms. And like, it was just such a big deal. My parents were called in for like a meeting being like, she's not taking her studies seriously because she's not, basically deciding what college she's going to go to. My parents were like, she's 16. Like, she doesn't need to know what she's going to do. She loves music. She loves, dancing. She loves performing. That's what she's going to do. And when the teachers... Great.
So they were supportive.
Oh, like, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what I would have done. Like, my parents were just always, from day dot, like, whatever you want to be, we'll support you. Now, at the same time, they were still like, you still have to get up and work. Like, it's, they definitely gave me my drive. But they were very much, if that's something you're really passionate about, we'll support you. So I was very lucky. And was that
the plan? Even so, when you were studying for the Leaving Cert, was it always, I want to be a musician, I want to be a singer, songwriter?
Never any doubt, ever.
So how did you then manage that from, say, when school was over, what was the path that you took?
It was a weird transition, I'll be honest, because when I was doing my Leaving Cert, I also was on Eurovision. I was doing Eurosong for Ireland, and that was my first time ever performing in front of a live audience, was on RTE, basically competing to, they do the Eurosong before you go to Eurovision.
And as soon as you say it, I think of, because like I'm old, so I think of the National Song Contest, then I think of Father Ted and all that kind of stuff. So tell me about your experience of that.
Yeah, well, that was... as much as obviously I didn't get chosen to represent Ireland that year, it was, when people say like everything happens for a reason, that was the best experience that I needed as my first initial kind of kick into the industry. That was my first time having a team. That was my first time singing, in front of people, because I never sang.
Or someone else's song?
So actually, Robert Grace, the singer-songwriter, so we met when I was like 17, and that was his song that we performed. And at that point I was just way too nervous to let people even hear the songs that I was writing. I was just like, these are mine and they're precious. And I was kind of thinking, oh, they're not good enough, I'm not going to let anybody hear them. But it was off the back of that I was offered, my deal with Universal, my record label. And I'll never forget their face when they kind of brought me in for the first initial meeting, and they were like, so like, would you ever consider writing songs? And I'm like, oh, I've got like 5 albums worth of songs, and they weren't expecting that, But I definitely think that whole experience was the best kind of kick that I needed, being like, you're coming into doing your Leaving Cert, like this, don't stop. This is your first little kind of door that's creaked open, and even though it's a no, just keep going. And I just haven't looked back or stopped since.
And how did you build the confidence to actually get up and perform? Like, were you doing loads of like little shows before then, or how did you kind of build the skills?
Yeah, well, I did a lot of like pub gigs. I did a lot of weddings, kind of small bars and stuff like that. But I still get really nervous when I perform.
Really?
Yeah, I still get nervous. Yeah, but I kind of like that. It's kind of a feel the fear and do it anyway. I don't want that to go away, because I think if anything that keeps me like, wanting to always give my best, and
keeps you sharp, doesn't it? Whether it's getting up and speaking or sport or singing, like you need a little bit of that.
You have to be on. You have to be switched on. And I think when the nerves and the excitement go, that's probably when you should ask yourself like, is there something else I should probably be doing? Because I just think when you push through nerves, that's growth. And I think that's when you are pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And I always say nothing good comes from comfort zones. I just think it's so great when you're, afraid to take a risk and do something, and you do it anyway. I just think that's really fun. And important.
Tell us some of the milestones along the way. So like you mentioned there, getting a record deal, and the reason I ask is for anyone else that wants to, like, it's not an easy career path to carve out, and it takes a lot of guts and a lot of self-belief. But what are some of the kind of milestones along the way, or some of the moments that you remember as kind of thinking, okay, I'm here now?
Yeah. God, there's so many. I mean, there's so many big moments, like performing to a sold out 3 arena for the Christmas ball. Like, there's so many big moments like that. But I have to be totally honest. My most kind of special moments that stand out to me are when I'm performing at gigs and I look at people in the front, standing in the front row, and their mouth is saying the words to my songs. That's something I never, ever, ever get used to. It's kind of them little things that I really try and absorb and hold on to, because I just think, especially in this industry, it's so full of highs, lows, everything in between. One door opens, 5 shut in your face. That I try my best to really, them kind of wholesome moments are the ones that I kind of try and keep in my brain. You know,
you were part of something lovely during the pandemic as well, the Irish Women in Harmony. Tell us a bit about that.
That is still probably one of my proudest projects to date. That was something that was so, I have to be totally honest, like, we never expected it to be what it was. It was just like a lockdown project, and we wanted to do it for a good cause, which we did for Safe Ireland, and we kind of just thought that would be it, you know.
How did it come around?
So basically, Ruth Ann, who is like our mother hen of Irish Women in Harmony, she approached a couple of us and was like, is this a good idea? And obviously all of us were like, oh my God, yeah, absolutely. So each of us kind of reached out to a few of our own friends. And then before we knew it, within 2 days, there was 37 women that were, planned to do the track, you know. But I think the most important thing for us as women from that project was that sense of community, because it's such a lonely industry, like it really is, and especially for women, because when it comes to doing like performances and showcases, there's normally only one woman on the bill, so we don't really get to cross paths very often, you know. So it's really special for us to be able to have that community, that if, you know, like if I got a contract in and I'm kind of unsure of something, we can just write it in the WhatsApp group, gals, like, what do you think of this? And it's literally like you've got 37 helpers there, and like we are genuinely such a good support system for each other. So that, apart from the song doing great and we raised a lot of money for that charity, for me personally, that is the most invaluable part, was that community that we got from it, you know.
And it's lovely. It's like, because I only looked at it because we're talking today, so I look back at it, and it's like a moment in time, isn't it, from the pandemic, where everyone is kind of sitting at home and doing their bits. Who figured out the arrangements and figured out the harmonies and all that kind of stuff?
She's a freak for that. Yeah, she's crazy. Yeah, that's kind of her whole wheelhouse, is harmonies and organising and all of that. Couldn't be me.
Tell us a little bit about life now. Like, what's your when you look at, say, for example, the next few months with what's coming up, how do you organise your time between writing and performing and all the other bits and pieces?
I've been in, like, the last year has been such a transition phase for me, because last year I left my label and management, and I've been basically like my whole, apart from a couple of people, but like my whole team. And that was really scary. Like last year, I think, was probably the first time that, you know, that little voice of doubt was in my mind, being like, are you mad doing this? Like, you're not getting any younger, you know, all of these kind of normal questions that a lot of people in the industry get. But the biggest kind of boost of confidence that I've gotten in the last year was releasing my music independently and it doing better than any of my music before. Like, that was, to me, like, oh my God, like, people are behind me. You know, it really gave me a boost of confidence. So I'd say, like, the next kind of phase of like next year and stuff, I'm diving in even deeper to that. And like, I had a summer EP called Daisy Chains, and I feel like that whole EP was songs that I've wanted to sing and write for the longest time, but I didn't, because I was worried it wouldn't do well on radio, or, you know, there's more conversations about TikTok and numbers and all of that. And that's just noise to me now. I don't even listen to that. I just literally concentrate on the songs. And I love
that song. Actually, I listened to the track Daisy Chains. I wonder, what was it? Were you writing about yourself or about a friend? Or?
I was actually writing about my childhood growing up in River Valley.
River Valley, yeah.
Because I just, again, like, it was kind of like a love letter to the fantastic childhood that I was so grateful to have, you know. And I think that, again, like, that goes back to the songs that I want to write. Like, I want to tell my story. I'm not interested in, you know, creating songs that are for viral moments. It just doesn't do anything to my soul, you know. And next year, like, I'm going to Nashville to write and stuff like that, and back to LA and stuff. So the next few months are definitely me in the room writing. Like, I'm just back from London for the last week, and I think it's just a case of me diving deeper in, okay, what is it that I want to say? Like, what is it I want to write? And since I've been following that train of thought, as opposed to, will this be popular? Will this do well on TikTok? Will this do good numbers? The music has been, I think, just way better. So it's kind of just continuing to follow that path.
Yeah, that's really cool. And then you've worked with like different producers and different people internationally. What have you learned? What did you learn that you like and you don't like in that creative process?
Oh God. I love that I learn something from each session, good or bad. I've had many bad sessions and many, you come across a lot of quite rude, arrogant people, but I feel like that's very like one out of every 10, you know. But I would say something that I've learned the most was when I got to meet Max Martin in Sweden, and that, honest to God, it sounds dramatic when you say it changed my life. It genuinely changed my life. Max Martin, for anybody that doesn't know, is the biggest producer, songwriter, pop icon in the whole world. He's written songs from Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, right to now, Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande. Like, I'm sure if you open the charts
It's not
now,
a bad CV, is it?
I'm sure if you open the charts now, all the top 10 are Max Martin. That's who he is. And I got the pleasure to meet him in Sweden last year or the year before. And he gave me advice, like it was like 2 hours that we got to sit in his home studio. He listened to all my demos and he was giving me advice. And like one of the most important piece of advice that he gave me was, we know that you can sing, like we can hear that you can sing. So just, tell your story more, be more emotional. Stop worrying about it sounding so perfect. He's like, that's what the producers are for. Don't worry about that. And that has really stuck to me, that it was crazy that I went to London the week after and a producer that I'd been working with for years was like, oh my God, you sound like so different. And it was because I was going for it. I wasn't focused so much on the notes being so perfect. It's more about the emotion and the story. And that piece of advice has honestly changed my life.
Yeah. And you always tend to hear with anybody that's had, a lot of success or commercial success in music, like it's all about, keeping going after all the knockbacks and all the disappointments. What have been some of the hardest things you've had to deal with in the career?
I would say probably last year was like the biggest hurdle, just mentally, for me to get over, that I needed to kind of be like, you can do this on your own. I think, like I said, like when I was doing the Eurovision-y kind of journey whilst doing my Leaving Cert, I always had such a massive team around me being like, you should do this, you should wear this, you should say this. Oh, don't say that in an interview, like that's not that cool, or sing about this. And I've always had people telling me what to do and advising me what to do, that when that left, I was like, oh my God, I have to trust myself now? What? Yeah. And I didn't realize, but I was such a natural people pleaser that if I came to you and I worked on this song for 3 months and I said, what do you think? And you were like, nah, I'd be like, yeah, you're probably right. And I would listen and trust so much that when that was all taken away from me, I had no choice but to trust my own gut. And so far it's been, honestly, I've never had more fun. It's been the most fun year of my life, because it's like, what do I want to do? Do I want to make a Christmas song? Everybody's telling me I shouldn't make a Christmas song. I'm going to do it anyway. And it was such a great success, So
you had a lovely thing you did with your Christmas song. Tell us about the idea of getting different people to contribute clips.
That was so special. Well, I was in LA last year, and I was on my own, and I had this song coming out about missing home and wanting to be home for Christmas. And I remember I was like, emailing different videographers and trying to organize like a music video for it. And I was like, none of this fits the song. And then I really quickly realized it's not, this sounds so weird, it's not my song. It almost felt like it was for other people. It was for other people's moments. And I could just visualize people coming home, coming through the airport and wrapping their arms around their family members. And no music video in LA, high budget, was going to capture that. So I kind of just put up a thing on Instagram and I was like, listen, it's probably a long shot, but if any of you have any, special videos that you'd like me to use, please send them over. We got thousands that we had to make part 2, part 3, part 4. And we still, every year, I'm still getting tagged in videos of people using the song for their special surprises and stuff. But oh my God, still when I watch that video, it makes me cry. Like it's magic. Like I really love it.
Yeah. So when it comes to, I suppose, being the master of your own destiny now and kind of managing, like you were saying, you manage your own socials and everything like that. Do you think it's harder or easier now for somebody that's making their way in the music industry with the likes of streaming platforms and social media?
It's It's a bit of both. Like, it's easier, I guess, because you can reach people quicker, but it's more difficult because there's just such a vast amount of people. Like, I remember when I started doing YouTube, there was only a couple of us in Ireland that were doing YouTube at the time, you know? So yeah, to me, I just try and focus on the positives. I would just say that anybody could be watching your videos at any moment, that even if your video has 5 views, you don't know who that one person is on that view that could change your life, you know? So I'm always very much like, post a video, you know, like if that's something that you want to do. I think online world is definitely the smart way to start. Like anytime, I always get, you know, young people being like, I really want to be a singer, I don't know where to start. My advice is always, obviously, you know, start working on your voice and writing songs, stuff like that. But the first step into kind of the world of music is to get your stuff online and just do it. Like, don't be afraid of it, you know?
You've got to put yourself out there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so tell me where people can find you. So we've mentioned your YouTube and Instagram. So for somebody that wants to dive in and look at some of the videos or listen to some of the songs, where can they find you? I'd
say Instagram, because that's probably where I post the most. My Instagram is Aimee Music Official, and then like all my TikToks and everything like that are the same. I'm not great on Instagram now. I'll warn you in advance. I used to post constantly, and it's just too busy. It's so hard to keep up with. So, but if you are looking to kind of keep up with my journey, I guess that's definitely the place to find me.
Yeah, well, we are, and we look forward to seeing what's all the good stuff that's to come in the years ahead.
Thank you.
So I want to say thanks so much for coming in and having the chat, and we will add your Instagram and your socials to the show notes.
Perfect.
And if you enjoyed the podcast, you can follow our Instagram and our YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube. They're both @talentmatters_podcast. Thanks again to our sponsor, Sanderson, and thanks so much, Aimee.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.